After 4 days of fighting, armed rebels appear firmly in control now of the South Korean provincial capital of Gwangju and the area around it. The rebels are opposed to last week's military takeover of the Seoul government and the imposition of martial law throughout the country. Bruce Dunning is there.
So severe was the fighting in Gwangju that the outnumbered army and police forces had to withdraw, leaving the city to its citizens. Western newsmen who managed to get into the city found themselves applauded and cheered by the crowd. But the atmosphere is heavily tinged with danger. The rioters have commandeered police vans, army trucks, even armored vehicles. They broke into armories, and most of the young men now controlling the city are armed with loaded carbines and rifles. Supplies of ammunition seem plentiful. The battered vehicles carry the South Korean flag, for these people consider themselves patriots, opposing the generals who seized power last weekend. Earlier rumors of several dozen killed in the rioting are proving true. Many of the dead are civilians apparently shot in the face at close range or bayoneted. The insurrection has spread to other parts of southwestern Korea. Demonstrators from Gwangju were cheered as they sought support in farming villages. Recruits jumped aboard commandeered buses and trucks to join the crowds back in Gwangju. The people of Gwangju seem flush with victory. They are standing firm on their demands that martial law be ended and that their local political hero, Kim Dae-jung, be released from jail. The generals consider this unacceptable. The two sides are negotiating, however, and the newly named prime minister made a promise in a nationwide broadcast to find a solution quickly. Both sides seem to realize that any attempt to regain control of the city by force would be a bitter, bloody fight. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Gwangju.
In Washington, the State Department warned North Korea that the United States will react strongly if there's any attempt to exploit the unrest in the South. A watered-down trade embargo against Iran by 8 of the 9 European common markets.
There have been 5 straight days of anti-government violence in the South Korean city of Gwangju. Demonstrators led by university students fought police and army units. Yesterday, the demonstrators took control of the city. Today, student leaders arranged a truce with army units ringing the city, and tonight they are trying to get their followers to lay down their arms. Jim Upshaw tells us what it was like today in Gwangju.
After 5 days of violence in Gwangju, no one can explain the bloodshed, which has brought medical personnel streaming in to treat not only people shot or bayoneted by soldiers, but also citizens wounded evidently at random by other citizens. Many are dead. No one knows how many are dead because the city still is too dangerous for a body count. Armed young men under no apparent organization rule the streets. With stolen army weapons and commandeered vehicles, they are unchallenged. The soldiers here so far are outnumbered. All of this stemmed from anti-government feelings and resentment against the discrimination this province always has suffered. But now, slogans are less important than guns, and those who have guns know that soon the army will be coming for them. Today, the army began to surround Gwangju. The main road into the city became a staging area for what looks like a planned invasion. Helicopters brought in rations, ammunition, and machine guns. C-123 cargo planes came with more supplies. Even jets flew over, a show of force. Frightened citizens of Gwangju walked out to safety. Each one had a story. This man said the original student rioters have given way to a tougher crowd, which has mounted machine guns on vehicles and is waiting for the army. Already this week, troops in Gwangju have opened fire on civilians, killing several. Unless the military shows great restraint, what happens next could be worse. Jim Upshaw, NBC News, near Gwangju, South Korea.
Today, the United States warned North Korea not to take advantage of the unrest in South Korea. At the same time, the Pentagon said it had given South Korean commanders permission to withdraw some Korean soldiers from the Joint Korean-American Command and use them to help control the cities. Richard Valeriani reports on how the situation in South Korea affects American troops there.
About 38,000 American troops are on duty in South Korea, all of them stationed far from the area of disturbances. U.S. officials say they have not been put on alert, but 2 specially equipped radar planes have been sent to Okinawa to keep an eye on North Korean air activity. State Department officials said there is no evidence of military movements by the North Koreans so far, but spokesman Harding Carter nevertheless warned them not to interfere.
we reiterate that the U.S. government will react strongly in accordance with its treaty obligations to any external attempt to exploit the situation in the Republic of Korea.
Officials here believe that military hardliners in South Korea are seizing on the political turmoil to halt progress toward democratic reforms. A special presidential committee met at the White House this afternoon to study what the United States can do to help restore civilian rule in South Korea and revive the process of political liberalization. Richard Valeriani, NBC News, at the State Department.